morning, folks. Welcome to That's My Farm. I'm Jim Schroyer, your host, and we're in luck because we're at the Kansas Wheat Innovation Center here in Manhattan, Kansas. And in just a minute, we're going to be talking to the scientists about their research that's being conducted here. I think you're going to enjoy this, so we'll be right back after these words from our sponsor.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com.
That's My Farm is brought to you in part by Tallgrass Commodities. Big enough to serve, small enough to care.
Welcome back to That's My Farm. I'm Jim Schroyer, your host. And today we have Aaron Harries, Vice President of Wheat Research and Operations for Kansas Wheat. So Aaron, appreciate you taking time to talk about your building here and what's going on here. So Aaron, take it away. Tell us what you got.
Well, we're happy to be in the Wheat Innovation Center for 4 years now, believe it or not. This beautiful facility was built by Kansas wheat farmers through the wheat checkoff, the 2 pennies they pay on every bushel of wheat sold in the state of Kansas. And it's been a great success story. The Wheat Innovation Center is a research center that kind of expands on research capabilities already here at Kansas State University in Manhattan. And about 8 years ago, farmers on our board said, well, let's see what we can do to expand on that research capacity, and this innovation center is what that's all about. And we've got several different wheat-related entities in the building here that have a lot of interaction, relationships, and cooperations, and it's really played very well.
So tell us some of the groups that you have here and how they do interface with the K-State researchers.
Mm-hmm. Well, we've got Kansas Wheat, which is a cooperative agreement with the Kansas Wheat Commission and the Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. So same staff representing both organizations. The Wheat Growers is the oldest organization, and it represents farmers and lobbying and policy issues, farm bill and things like that. We've also got the Kansas Wheat Alliance here. They collect seed royalties on licensed wheat varieties through Kansas State University. So it's great to have them in the building, cooperate with them. They also support wheat research at Kansas State University, so we coordinate with them. Then we created a couple of new companies. The big one, Heartland Plant Innovations, HPI, which is a farmer-owned company that leases space in the building and does a lot of the core wheat research in here, such as the double haploid wheat creation. It's got a partner, not-for-profit called Earth's Harvest that pursues grants and research funding from the government and other sources. And then we also donate space to the Kansas Foundation for Ag in the Classroom. They do great work teaching teachers agriculture curriculum across the state, and we have them in the office. And then obviously Kansas State wheat researchers are in here. The Wheat Genetics Resource Center is relocated from campus here to the Wheat Innovation Center. And then we've got a couple of industry partners that also cooperate with us here. What we're also proud of with the Wheat Innovation Center is we set up a research foundation for naming rights in the facility in exchange for gifts to research, cash gifts to research. So different individuals and businesses, we have their names on offices and different rooms in the Innovation Center. And we raised $1.4 million in naming rights to fund research that goes on here and at Kansas State University. And that's in addition to what we raised through the checkoff. And you know, it's a great time of the year for people if they want to give a tax-deductible cash gift to support the research that's going on here. We have that Kansas Wheat Commission Research Foundation now, and people can inquire about that if they are interested in doing some giving.
That's good. I notice you have some excellent facilities downstairs and in the backyard, so to speak, with the greenhouses.
This is a huge facility. It's a lot bigger than it looks from the outside, and we've got laboratory space and greenhouse space, and we're happy to report that we're going to be actually building new greenhouse space here at the end of the year into next year with another grant we got. So a lot of excitement generated by the work being done.
Aaron, appreciate you taking time.
Thanks,
and
Jim.
We're going to go downstairs and check out these things you've been telling us about.
Great.
Folks, we have to take a break right now, so stay tuned. We'll be back after these words from our sponsors. See you in a minute.
Watch Ag AM in Kansas online at agaminkansas.com.
Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego is driven by the spirit of American ingenuity. Come in for a new Chevrolet car, truck, or SUV. If we don't have exactly what you want, we'll find it for you. And we also have a great selection of used cars. We make sure you have an easy, fun, and transparent sales experience that saves you time and money. But if you want high-pressure salesmen and hours spent in the finance office, you'll just have to go elsewhere. Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego. We're making car buying great again.
Soil is the life of a farm, and for 25 years, SureCrop Liquid Crop Nutrition has helped growers produce abundant quality crops while preserving and improving the soils they steward. SureCrop offers complete soil and plant analysis with cropping recommendations, delivery direct to your on-farm storage, and quality crop nutrition custom blended for your field. Choose SureCrop for the assurance of excellence for your soil. Call today or visit their website for more information.
That's My Farm is brought to you in part by Tallgrass Commodities. Big enough to serve, small enough to care.
Welcome back to That's My Farm. I'm Jim Schroyer, and with us we have John Rupp, our senior scientist in the Department of Plant Pathology, but he's housed in the Wheat Innovation Center here on campus. So John, good to be, glad to have you on the show. Good to see you again. And obviously we're in the greenhouse and we got some weird looking kind of wheats around us. So kind of describe what we have here and what your responsibilities are.
Right. Okay, so at Kansas State in the Wheat Genetics Resource Center, we learned a long time ago that there's probably not very much diversity left in the wheat crop as we know it. So we are going to the wild wheats, the relatives of wheat that diverged several thousand years ago to find new resistance to pests and diseases in wheat. And one of the main plants we're using right here is Aegilops tushii. This hybridized with what we know is durum wheat about 8,000 years ago. So this plant is very easy to cross with wheat, and we get hybrids within a couple generations that are very fertile. We have found resistance in this plant to almost any pest that we're interested in. All the foliar diseases, Hessian fly, green bug.
Well, just looking at it right here, this looks like just the old run-of-the-mill at the edge of the field jointed goat grass.
It is related to jointed goat grass. However, this plant only has the D genome, whereas jointed goat grass is a tetraploid actually, has 2 genomes in it. That plant does cross with wheat.
Rarely.
Rarely in a farmer's field, but it's easier to go back to just the single genome that contributed to wheat.
Okay, so let's talk about those genomes just for a real brief second here. We've got AA, BB, which would be the durum type, and then you have the DD, which would be the Aegilops.
Right, and we also have collections of the AA and BB genotypes also. And that's this plant right here, and we have about 500 different lines of this species also.
And that's a AA?
This is AABB here. So this is a direct progenitor of all durum wheats.
John, so tell us a little bit more about the collection, the seed collection.
Okay, so we used to be housed in Throckmorton Hall, and we have been funded by the Kansas Wheat Commission for a number of years trying to transfer genes from Aegilops tushii into wheat. And when the Wheat Commission established this new building, they made very nice facilities for us, and the gene bank was moved from Throckmorton here. The gene bank now has about 15,000 lines in it. About a third of those are wild species, such as we see here, the Aegilops species and the wild Triticum species. Another third of the lines in the gene bank are genetic stocks that we use to help manipulate to transfer some of these genes from the wild species.
So they're basically pretty ugly lines.
Weight.
They're pretty ugly and they never see the light of day, so to speak.
That's correct.
They're a carrier.
Yes, and then another third of the lines are just experimental lines that we just use for genetic studies that we're interested in. So there's about 15,000 lines in there, quite a big collection, and the space we have here is almost quadruple what we had available over in Throckmorton, so we're very fortunate to have that here. It's also, the collection is also under very strict humidity and temperature control, which we didn't have in Throckmorton. So those things are very vital for the longevity of a collection. And because we've just only started tapping the genes that are in these wild species, we are going to be using these species for a long time. So maintaining the collection over a long duration is very important.
Okay. So, John, I appreciate you taking time to show us a little bit of
My pleasure.
Kind of the odd types here. Folks, we'll be right back after these words from our sponsors. See you in a minute.
Hello friends, I'm Ernie Rodina.
And I'm Dawn Dawson with the Better Horses Radio Show.
For over 9 years, we've been bringing the Better Horses Radio Show to markets all across the Midwest. We talk about God, lots about horses.
We talk about cows, we talk about horse health, we talk to top trainers, and we even talk about Roy Rogers.
We are having a blast with Better Horses Radio Show and would love to take it to a market near you.
So visit our website at betterhorsesradio.com and let us or your local radio station know you'd like to hear it in your area.
The Better Horses Radio Show is unbelievable.
Ag Promo Source is a unique group of marketing specialists with one mission: help your ag business grow. Each affiliate has their own area of expertise, and they work together to bring you advice, products, and services. To get started, visit agpromosource.com. Ag Promo Source. Together we grow.
KFRM is one of the largest farm radio stations in the nation, dedicated to informing and entertaining rural listeners from northern Oklahoma to southwestern Nebraska. You can catch KFRM in many ways. Of course, 550 on the AM dial, streaming at kfrm.com, or on your smartphone by going to the TuneIn Radio app, or on Ag AM in Kansas on Tuesdays and Facebook every day of the week. KFRM, tune us in. You'll be glad you did.
That's My Farm is brought to you in part by Tallgrass Commodities. Big enough to serve, small enough to care.
Welcome back to That's My Farm. I'm Jim Schroyer, and with us in this segment we have Tyler Salter, a research associate at the Heartland Plant Innovation Center. And Tyler, you looks like a rainbow back here with all these different colors. What have you got?
Well, these are actually tags to mark the different days of work that we're doing. So we're working on a doubled haploid operation, which means that we're creating this population of plants that all have the exact same genetics across all of their chromosomes. We do this by getting a putative cross by one of our breeders that we work with. And in this cross, they think they have something interesting. It's either a yield trait or a disease resistance or some other trait that they think is going to be commercially valuable.
Quality, yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. So they're sending those plants to us, and we're going to emasculate these plants. We pull out all the male parts so that we're only left with the ovary and the egg inside of this flower. And then we actually pollinate with maize pollen, and that induces that ovary to start dividing. That resulting embryo only has half the number of chromosomes that it should, and then we use a mitotic inhibitor later to double its chromosome count. So now the resulting plant has both copies of the chromosomes are exactly alike. They're all homozygous. All that resulting population will flower at the same time, grow at the same rate, be ready to harvest at the same time in the field.
Okay, so let's go back just a little bit. You talked about you pollinate it with maize, which
corn,
sweet corn, and so that doesn't bring any genes from the sweet corn into it.
Correct. It only induces that ovary to start dividing. There's actually no DNA contributed from that maize parent.
Okay. Well, so contrast that with the way we've done wheat breeding in the past. It's a long time.
Right. So wheat breeding in the past, traditionally you would accomplish the same goals through line breeding. Doubled haploids offer a couple advantages. You can fix traits faster and accomplish this whole process in several years quicker timeline. So we're actually selling time to our customers where we're saving them upwards of 6, maybe even 8 years in some cases of development on their crosses.
Tyler, thanks for taking your time to kind of show us what you're doing.
My pleasure.
Folks, we'll be right back after these words from our sponsors.
Tarwater Farm and Home has been family owned and operated since its beginning in 1978. What you need for farm and agriculture, lawn and garden, clothing and footwear, and so much more. You'll be surprised at what you'll find in this huge store. They have what you need and lots of it. So come take a look. You'll discover that customer service is first and foremost. Always has been with the Tarwaters. Tarwater Farm and Home, 4107 North Topeka Boulevard.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.
We do business with Blueville because of the quality of their work, is excellent quality, and because they make a commitment to their customers.
We enjoy the benefits of hiring a good company to help us maintain this home.
We will always do business with Blueville. We have for many, many years, and there's no reason for us to look for any other service.
That's My Farm is brought to you in part by Tallgrass Commodities. Big enough to serve, small enough to care.
Welcome back to That's My Farm. I'm Jim Schroyer, and with us we have Azif Mohammed, the Chief Scientist here at the Heartland Plant Innovation Center. And Azif, with your title, you run the show, so to speak. You're the head guy. So kind of tell us what projects are going on here.
Basically, Heartland Plant Innovation is a plant biotechnology company, and we are providing different plant breeding services to the wheat breeders.
Around the country and the world.
In the world as well. And basically, one of the biggest projects that we are working on is a double haplite project. I think that Tyler Sulter will talk about in detail, but I just want to let you know that we are producing around 25 to 30,000 double haplites in a year for different wheat breeders in the US, Canada, Argentina, Brazil, and China as well. So this is one of our bigger projects. Another project we are working during this process is the marker-assisted selection. Basically, the marker-assisted selection, we are looking for the gene of interest for the breeders. Breeders are asking that, okay, in this plant I need this gene. So we are doing some marker-assisted selection when the plants, haplite plants, are at only 2 to 3 leaf stage. And if the gene of interest is present, we are taking forward those plants, otherwise we are discarding it. So it saves a lot of money as well as space. And other than the marker-assisted selection, we have some project with respect to pyramiding genes or stacking genes into a one wheat variety. And we are doing, I think, 2 or 3 different projects for different disease-resistant genes to pyramid them. So other than that, what we are trying to do is trying to bring some genes from the old wild relatives of wheat into the cultivated wheat that we are cultivating right now. So what we are doing here is we are trying to cross wheat with the Aegilops toshii, which is a D genome donor of wheat.
A goat grass type.
Yes, you're right. And basically, those genes are effective against some disease resistance, particularly wheat streak mosaic virus genes and some other genes as well. So we are trying to produce some octoplite wheat. And other than that, we are also trying to produce some synthetic wheat. We are trying to produce hexaplite synthetic wheat by crossing tetraplite wheat with Aegilops toshii. We have a project where we are trying to develop a double haplite system in sorghum. Double haplite system in sorghum does not exist, so Heartland Plant Innovation is trying to develop a system for sorghum so that we can reduce the time scale to develop sorghum cultivar by at least 4 years.
Azif, thanks for telling us what HPI is doing, the number of projects. We appreciate it. Got to take a break now.
Yeah,
folks, stay with us. We'll be right back after these words from our sponsor.
I had this horse. It was a good horse, except for when the wind was blowing above 30 miles an hour. Wind was blowing about 35, 40, and I saddled him up, rode him out to the end of the lane, and I thought, well, he's doing pretty good. And about 6 jumps later, I was laying on the ground and thinking, boy, my shoulders sure hurt. I kept waiting, and it didn't get better, and so I went to an orthopedic surgeon, and that showed that I had torn rotator cuff. And he said, well, we'll have to do surgery. I thought, I farm and ranch by myself. This is not going to work out very well. I'd been sleeping in my recliner for about 2.5 years because it hurt too much to sleep in bed on my side. And I'd heard about Kansas Regenerative Medicine Center on the radio and gotten down there at 8 o'clock in the morning, and by 11:30 the procedure was all over. They just took some fat out of my side here and spun that down for about 45 minutes and then injected it in my shoulders, and I was on my way. It's something you don't hear about, but I thought it was worth a try, and I'm really pleased. It's really worked out well for me.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
ValleyVet.com, ValleyVet Supply.
Grain sorghum is one of the most important cereal crops worldwide, and Kansas leads the nation in its production. Over the years, sorghum has been either exported, used in animal feed domestically, or for other industrial uses. Recently, its use in the ethanol market has seen tremendous growth, with 30% of domestic sorghum typically going to ethanol production. Kansas Grain Sorghum is committed to sorghum research, market development, and education. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org.
That's My Farm is brought to you in part by Tallgrass Commodities, big enough to serve, small enough to care.
Welcome back to That's My Farm. And in this last segment, we have Chris Miller, who is the Director of Wheat Quality Research here at the Heartland Plant Innovation Center. And Chris, we just come from the greenhouse and we saw all those good things are going on out there. The quick release on those varieties. And but in the quality, what aspect do you play in this role?
Yeah, so we've looked at kind of some of the wild relatives of wheat in the greenhouse, how we can start to move some of those genetics into developed varieties. And really my role here is to look at the end user traits. So I work mostly with milling and baking companies and try to interface with the breeding program. So looking at really protein on my side, I'm a protein biochemist and also a flour miller. And so looking at what wheat varieties may end up with better baking properties or better milling qualities. And so we're doing that through protein characterization of the wild relatives of wheat and also some of the kind of current varieties that are being developed.
So you have to go through, basically screen all the wild types and possibly all the old varieties from way back when to see if they have certain characteristics that we want to put in to new releases. Is that basically?
Yep, that's correct. So basically, we have a research project that's funded by the Kansas Wheat Commission, which is the Kansas wheat farmers, and we're looking at human health and nutrition and also end product quality. So the project is really looking at celiac disease on one side and trying to characterize those wild relatives, those ancient wheats, for their levels of celiac reactive proteins. And then we're also screening varieties throughout the breeding program over history, so from the early 1900s even up till today, in our current commercial varieties that are being planted in the field. So we're screening those for proteins related to celiac disease, but also proteins related to baking quality.
I want you to address the fact that you see in these health food stores or wherever that spelt and some of these old types or ancient types of wheat varieties are good for celiac or gluten intolerant. And so I want you to go on record here and tell me what you know about those old wheat varieties.
Yeah, so we've done this, and there's other laboratories outside of Kansas State University that have done this work where we've screened for celiac reactive proteins, and we've found no evidence of a breeding effect where we've increased the amount of celiac reactive proteins in wheat, and in fact we find the same proteins in the ancient wild relatives of wheat that are responsible for celiac disease. So they've been there since the beginning of wheat.
So, well, Chris, do you think going through all these screenings that you'll be able to find something that will help people with celiac disease? Because that's a really bad disease to have.
That's true. So yes, we're making progress on the project. So we're looking for varieties that already have a naturally low level of the celiac proteins, and using that as a starting point, we will continue to lower the levels of reactivity over time through our traditional breeding practices. So yes, we will be able to make some progress on celiac.
Chris, thank you for taking this time.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. It's nice to see the lab here.
Yep, thanks.
Folks, thanks for being with us on this episode of That's My Farm. And don't forget, next week at about the same time, we'll have another show of That's My Farm. See you then.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com.